$500 apparently based on some contracting work that wasn't done to your satisfaction.
That's correct.
Prove your case.
All right. I have a house that I've been living in about 5 years. I've owned it for over 30.
Is the house 30 years old, or is it even older?
It was 57 was built.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's over 50 years
Yeah,
old.
it's rather old, yes.
All right.
But I did have a roof put on about 27 years ago with a 25-year guarantee that it would, guarantee on the roofing. And I felt that it was probably time.
So you decided you were going to get a new roof, and you decided to hire Mr. Fillmore.
Well, the neighbor was having her roof done, and I went over and talked to her, and she was very happy with him. He did a beautiful job. So I called him and had him come out to give me an estimate.
All right, so Mr. Fillmore, you got this call.
Yeah, it's actually, I've been working in this industry for a couple years now. I inherited this business from my father, who's been running it for about 40 years.
All right.
So I've actually worked on a lot of the houses in the neighborhood, and I was referred to Miss Stork by one of the neighbors.
So that neighbor, how did that neighbor find out about you? Was that also
I've actually done her house too. I've done every house in the neighborhood.
So you're getting word of mouth business?
Word of mouth business, absolutely.
And so your reputation, I would imagine, in that neighborhood is pretty reputable.
Yes, sir.
There's no disputing in terms of cost, right? You all were on the same page. There was a meeting of the minds there.
Correct.
Correct.
Yes. And how much was the actual cost going to be?
$10,000.
It was going to be $10,000. And what were you getting for $10,000?
I was going to have the roof replaced.
The entire roof?
Exactly.
All right.
It's not a very big home, so it.
How much square footage are we talking about?
I would say probably 1,700 square feet.
All right. And so, and that's normally what you would charge for a 1,700 square foot home?
Yes, sir.
All right. And were you doing anything extra with that?
No.
All right. So when you made the agreement, did you yourself do it, or did you have someone else go out?
I went out personally myself, sir.
Okay. So up to this point, there's no problems.
Correct.
When did we start running into difficulty?
Well, originally when he came out to look at the house to give me the estimate, he wanted to take a sample of the roof to make sure that there wasn't any dry rot or termite infestation or any mold.
Is that pretty standard?
Yes, sir.
All right.
So he took a sample.
Okay.
And he had, of course, cover it with plastic and that. And that evening, it rained and leaked. The patchwork, whatever he put on there to cover the hole that he cut out,
wasn't cutting it.
Wasn't good enough because it leaked.
Coming up on America's Court.
If you take a chunk of a roof for a sample, and then days later, there's that damage in correlation to where that chunk is, that tells me that that chunk caused that damage.
This is America's Court with Judge Ross. We're back with the case of Deborah Stork, who is suing roofer Marcus Fillmore for unsatisfactory repairs.
And so you go, you take the sample.
I go out there and take the
But she says
sample.
that when you took that sample, there was leakage. Is that something that would happen?
No. When we actually took the sample, we took just a little roof sample to actually see if the wood was rotted at all, if we could actually work on it. The wood was not rotted.
They had plastic up there. I don't know what they did, whether they didn't put heavy enough
plastic. Did she
plastic.
complain about the leakage?
Actually, she did not.
You don't recall that?
Absolutely. Because the following evening, when it was raining,
yes,
chunks were coming out of my ceiling.
And you were living there?
I was there, yes. I was running around taking buckets and putting them underneath there.
What was going to be the length of time that it was going to take to complete it?
It should only take 3 days to put a new roof on.
We actually had to extend it out for 2 weeks because...
How did we go from 3 days to 2 weeks?
We actually told her that due to the weather changing, that the rains were coming, we actually can't work.
It's Seattle. It's always raining in Seattle.
Exactly. So there was a big storm coming.
Oh, I see.
And so we
Heavier than normal.
We can't work in the rain. It's essentially, we're working with hot tar. Tar will dry out in the rain. Your Honor, I actually had her sign a waiver.
Let me see that. The waiver about the time?
Actually, a waiver saying that since we were working in adverse conditions, we weren't being responsible for anything that happened.
That waiver was not handed to me as a waiver. He handed me a contract to sign, which was 2 pages.
There's 2
that I
separate
found out
signatures on that,
later. He slipped that in the middle of the 2 pages and told me.
Have you seen this document?
I have now.
Okay, you saw it before because it says here, and you highlighted this, right?
Yes, sir.
Waiver of responsibility. Fillmore Company is not held liable for any damages caused by rain damage incurred during this roofing project.
But he told me this is part of my contract.
But your signature is right underneath. How can
Yeah, because he
slipped. Stop. You said he slipped that language in. It's right above your signature. So you know better. What's this picture for?
That picture is actually some of the water damage that was in her house.
All right, so let's take a look at that on the plasma. So this hole, that's the ceiling in her...
She originally called us and said that there was some water damage, and we came out to inspect.
I've never had a leak in my house.
I'm listening.
She called me and told me that her roof collapsed.
I would say 2 days after he did the
sample
sample on the roof, and it's right below the sample.
Is that true?
Yes, sir.
All right. But if you take a chunk of a roof for a sample, and then days later, there's that damage in correlation to where that chunk is, that tells me that that chunk caused that damage.
We actually don't know if that was in correlation to that hole.
Did he ultimately fix this?
He offered to fix it, yes.
Okay.
And he did.
All right.
He patched it.
All right.
And then we went into doing the roof. And he started at the east side of the house, which is at the other end of the house, and started to redo it. And it was taking forever and ever. And I told him, I said,
Was it still raining?
Yes.
It's drizzle off and on, Seattle weather, not a big storm or anything,
Right.
and he's doing what he can.
So
And I said,
ultimately,
well,
he
maybe
finishes the job.
it takes him like 2 weeks. And
Does
I
he-
said,
does
maybe
he-
you should have brought more
does
people.
he repair this?
He did repair that.
Okay, so ultimately everything's taken care of.
Right. My sister was having foot surgery in Reno, and I told her that I would be there to help her out till she got back on her feet.
Got it.
So I had scheduled a 2-week vacation, one with her and one just for myself, and I went and took care of her. After 2 weeks, I had a lovely vacation. I come home, I walk in, and there's my bedroom with a giant hole right where the other hole had been.
You have any proof of all this?
I have photos, yes.
Let me see.
Why don't you give me that also?
Mr. Fillmore, talk to me.
There was a water spot, so she actually was trying to paint over that, and by her trying to paint over that, she pushed too hard on the ceiling and the roof collapsed into it. So she pulled more.
Stop.
Okay.
I'm looking at this picture of a roof and just things strewn everywhere. Let's take a look at this on the plasma. So this damage is extensive in terms of what happened to her roof.
Water seeped into her house, but she actually removed the damage that was on the roof that we estimated was $500 worth of damage. She actually pulled all that. If you could see, there's perfect straight lines. She actually pulled all that off to make it more elaborate.
Is that true? Did you pull?
No, I'm 5'1". How would I get up there? Even on a
Do you
ladder,
have
I'd
any
kill
proof that
myself.
she pulled the stuff down?
I watched her pull some of the stuff down to expose that there was mold. There was no mold.
This
She pulled out a
picture was taken
microscope. She pulled out a microscope and a
Right, when-
magnifying glass and said that I can see the mold.
He's lying.
Did you have mold?
I have mold. There's a picture there that you can see in the bathroom where there is mold.
This
I
picture?
had no idea there was mold in the other
This
room.
is a different room.
That's the bathroom next door.
Okay, let's take a look at this. All right, Mr. Fillmore. So this is not the bathroom.
That's my bedroom.
All right, so we've got issues here. We've got issues here.
This
What's
is
going
2
on with
weeks
the roofing?
after the actual install.
But there shouldn't be anything there.
There shouldn't be anything, correct.
Judge Ross's verdict when America's Court returns. You're watching America's Court with Judge Ross. This is America's Court with Judge Ross.
If you pay someone $10,000, why should they have anything after that?
They shouldn't have any kind of water damage after that.
I'm so glad you said that. Based on the evidence and the testimony before this court, the gavel comes down in favor of the plaintiff. You owe her